The Pope and Young Club wants to welcome you as we rally together to ensure our bow hunting opportunities for today and tomorrow. You've come to the podcast that believes in preserving, protecting, and promoting the passion for bow hunting. Join us as we strive to be the voice of today's bow hunter. This is the Pope and Young Podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Pope and Young Podcast. Jason Roundsville here, and joined as always by my co-host Dylan Ray. And we have with us on her very first podcast, we have Nicole Miller. Nicole, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, you guys, for having me.
Absolutely. We're excited. We always like it's always an honor for us to be somebody's first podcast, because I'm sure this will not be your last one.
You might be right, but we'll see how it goes.
So congratulations. For those of you who are not aware, I'm not sure where you've been, but anyway, Nicole's buck has been on magazines, online, huge buck, and it was taken Ohio, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And so we're going to get into a little bit more specifics about that buck later and different things, but tell us about your buck, when you got it, where you got it, how big it actually is. And these are not scores. This is an official measurement, correct? It's been official. Yeah.
This says here on North American Whitetail, it has been submitted and accepted by Pope and Young, and it is verified as the highest typical score on record submitted by a female bow hunter. If the rack's entry score is confirmed by a panel of Pope and Young measurers at the next biennial convention, i.e. the
Reno
panel, Reno, Nevada, scheduled for April of 2023. Shout out to stinking North American Whitetail for getting us in there.
I know.
Then he will, in effect, be the woman's world record typical whitetail by vertical bow.
Wow.
Still crazy to hear.
That's just, how's that make you feel? Did you have any idea?
I knew he was a good deer, but world record, women's world record, I wasn't looking for that at all. So that was a huge, just kind of icing on the cake for me.
Yeah.
Does your husband hunt?
Yes, he hunts too. We
Not
don't hunt
anymore. He
not
gave
anymore.
Up. Yeah.
No. We've never hunted together. We just kind of go our own ways. So it's we have more success that way. But
is that because you guys fight when you're in the tree stand? Because that's with me and my wife. That's the deal.
We do a little bit. We always have a different opinion, and it's usually because of me. But
and so now that you've killed a bigger buck than he has, now does he have to listen to you more than he did before?
Oh no!
Or did he always listen?
That'll never change.
Now when he argues, just say 204. 204.
Yeah.
Shut up, 204.
How many 200-inch bucks have you shot? Boom. Actually, I don't care where you are. She doesn't have to use that with her husband. She can walk into any room and say that. How many 200-inch bucks have you shot? Because here's my score sheet. And then, of course, you're always going to have the guys, oh, yeah, I got a 7 or 8 that size. And you just look at dead square in the eye. No, you don't. Yeah, absolutely. You don't have to put up with that. It's and you probably get this because we had the Mel Johnson world record buck at the archery trade show several years ago. And man, I couldn't count on both hands the number of people who walk up and say, yeah, I got a couple that size.
And it's been the world record for 60 years.
60 years, yeah. And they're like, oh, I got a couple that size. And you just look over, and what you want to say is, you are so full of it. You just have no idea how bad I just want to verbally slap you. But you can't. You have to be nice. Yeah. And so we do, and mess with them a little bit. And then they find out it's a world record. And apparently their 162 and 3/8 is not as big as the world record. So nice buck, not a world record. Right. Yours, however, and this is something, anyway, before we get into some of this, I want to hear about this hunt. So tell us about this buck, please.
Well, we hunted him for about 4 years total, and we hunt on my dad's farm for him. And I'd say we started in 2018, and I'd hunted all season and hadn't seen a good deer. And just happened, I was kind of pouty, walking home early, making my way up through, and I it's just basically trying to make it home before dark to catch anything moving to make a game plan for the next day. And I was topping the hill and I thought I saw something. And this deer lifted its head and I couldn't believe it. And we're like 25 yards apart at the time. And I knew that it was the best deer I'd seen on my dad's farm probably forever. And
Maybe had ever been.
Definitely forever. Yeah. I can say it was the best deer you've ever seen.
Yeah.
But and that was probably when he was a 3-year-old. So I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
So I contemplated shooting him then. I had my bow in my hand and my binos in the other. And when he lifted his head, he was facing me and it was getting dark. And just when you start to think about maybe trying to draw your bow, he just flipped around and ran back over the hill. So that was the first time that I had seen him. But
now, I'm just gonna, Dylan, here's the difference between somebody who kills a 200-inch buck and us. Okay,
he'd have already been plugged.
If he's 25 yards, the top of the hill. I saw the headgear. I thought about shooting him, and Nicole, just so you know, Dylan and I, we're like straight up killers.
We're trigger men. Yeah,
there's no thinking involved. No. We're like, dude, take her, go, send it.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so kudos to you for the pause, letting him grow up. Someday our fork and horns, Dylan, would grow up if we gave him a chance. So anyway, please continue.
So after that, I wasn't sure who he was, and we usually keep pretty good track of our deer through trail cameras. So I couldn't, make it around the farm quick enough to pull cards and see if I had proof of him. But the first picture I had was at the corner of a cornfield, and it was a blurry picture, and I still couldn't make out his rack, couldn't count points, but I knew he was a nice shooter. So, I was after him from the get-go. He was probably a 170 that year, I would say. And
she thought about shooting him.
Thought about shooting. I don't know if I'm trying to think if I've seen a 170. Definitely not while I've been in the field hunting.
So do you mind if I share my screen to show the pictures of the trail cam photos?
Yeah, go ahead.
So this was the first year you're talking?
That second picture there on the left. Yeah, the middle picture on the left. That was what he was the first time I saw him.
Cool.
Dang. Yeah, that's before he grew up.
This is one of those stories where you're like, thank God I didn't shoot him.
Yeah.
No, see, that's different. I'd have the other story. I'd have put him down right there and I'd have been, yeah, look at me. Look at this great big buck I shot.
Yeah.
So,
for sure.
But
oh my God.
Wow.
So that was this year.
Yeah, that was his that was his last walk I had of him on a trail camera there. But
dude, look at the size of the body on that thing too. Look at the belly hanging down. I mean, that's a yeah. That's a healthy deer. He has not missed a meal.
No, he was well fed.
Yeah. So you saw him, and then all of a sudden you're getting trail camera pics of him, and now you're seeing him every year.
Yeah, and so you kind of figure out a pattern with him, and every year my dad and I both, we'd just be amped to get out there and hunt, and we both hunted like as hard as we could for him, and we would just never see the deer. He was always nocturnal, and maybe you could count on one hand the time that we got daytime pictures of him during that 4 years. So he was definitely outwitting us about every day we hunted. So it wasn't until a lot of times, like I love to shed hunt, and so I really think shed hunting and trail cameras really put everything together for me, because I would learn, we found 3 of his sheds on the farm over the years, and it was always on the same side of the property. So we learned, kind of where he felt comfortable moving, and it was through thick timber. And so we were kind of learning his habits, but we just had very few encounters of him. My dad probably had more seeing him in person than I did, but it was just really neat to hunt something that was that smart and that cagey. I mean, he knew where our trail cameras were. We would get pictures of him like walking backwards away from trail camera pictures, and he was just really something. So I think, yeah, go ahead.
He's making faces at the trail cameras.
Oh, for sure.
Elk love to do that. They like to stick the whole mouth over the camera.
Yeah. So I think like we would just go through cycles. I would hunt all the way through, just hoping like cold weather would bring him out to food plots, and it just never worked out. And we were just waiting for maybe a neighbor to be the lucky one instead of us. So we were always on pins and needles, and just waiting on trail cam pictures to prove that he made it through the hunting season, which year after year he did. And we learned that he would just come back at the end of October, kind of when the rut would really start to ramp up for us. So I think that last year I decided not to hunt, because we come in at the end of September, so I can hunt all of October. And I just decided to wait until the end of October to kind of keep the woods quiet and the pressure off all the deer, and then go in and target him again. And that kind of seemed to work out that last year for me. But it was October 24th was the day I ended up getting him, and it was in the morning. So the hunt was short and sweet. I mean, I went in the morning in the dark, and I had my climber set up already. And with it raining and everything, it kept everything quiet. So I was able to sneak in pretty well, climb up pretty quiet, and just, set and wait. And I think it was about a half an hour after daylight, I just caught some bushes moving ahead of me. There was like a little knob, and I was kind of around a bedding area. When I saw that bush moved, I immediately grabbed my binos, and I was sitting down at the time. And all I could see was just the very end of his beam pushing through briars and brush. And my heart, it just started racing because I knew it was game on then. But
and how far was that when you first saw him?
I'm going to guess between 60 and 70 yards. So it's really thick. And that was the first, just to catch movement and see that horn coming through. And I knew I didn't have much time. So I knew I had to get stood up without him catching me. And I just would tell myself, kind of like a little inner dialogue. I'd be like, stand up, see if you can get stood up. And if you can, just reach for your bow. I didn't have anything. I had my bow on my hanger at that time. And so I was able to stand, and he didn't catch me. I got my bow in my hand, and he didn't catch me. And at this time, he's probably 40 yards in front of my tree, and he's on a V line. He's just coming right to my tree head on. And so I'm standing, I've got my bow ready, the release is hooked, and I'm ready to go. And all I'm waiting for him to do is just pass my tree so I could have a quartering away shot. And right when he got to the point where I was going to draw on him, all of a sudden he did like a 90-degree turn and started to go up this bank where I had no shot. Within 2 seconds, like, he would have been gone, and that would have been the end of it for me. So I decided, I drew, and I decided I was going to do the bleat to get him stopped. And I bleated as loud as I could. And I don't know how loud it was actually, but it felt like I probably woke up the whole entire neighborhood. And when I bleated, he stopped immediately in his tracks. So that worked. And he turned and looked straight up at me. And then I guessed him to be between 25 and 30 yards. I think I put my 30-yard pin on him and then took the shot. But that's pretty much how it unfolded.
Nice. That's so you mentioned something there, which is why you mentioned a lot of things there, some of them which are like, oh, well, we just decided not to hunt it for the first month. That makes me a little jealous because I've never had a place where you could do that. So yeah, a lot of the places I grew up hunting, if I didn't hunt it, there would be somebody else there today. It's just a matter of time, matter of who. And And then you're like, oh, well, I was just going to let him walk past me at 20 yards so I could get a quartering away shot. I'm like, man, you get that monster in front of you. That's because I could see it exactly, kind of like you said. He gets to a certain point and then he turns and then all of a sudden he's gone. You're like, oh, well, I could have shot him right there, but I wanted a better shot. And then now he's just gone. So
Right.
I'm so glad it worked out and that you recognize that, okay, I need to go now.
Uh-huh. Yeah, by him turning, he put himself directly broadside, and it was, you couldn't ask for a better, shot opportunity there, but it just had to happen within a split second. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So go ahead, Jay.
When he looked up at you, did he realize that he looking up and he's like, oh crap.
She got me.
Yeah.
I feel like that was his thought. He looked up and you can tell. And I mean, I shot him immediately because I didn't give him a chance to think about it. But
Right.
you could tell, yeah, he knew that something was up.
Yeah.
So you seem to talk a lot about holding out and waiting and waiting for that day. There's been a trend, Jason, on some local podcasts that I want to ask Nicole. If you have a target buck, much like this buck, if you have one buck that you're trying to kill and you can only hunt 3 days in the year, consecutive 3 days, what 3 days are you choosing to hunt him?
3 days is a tough one. November 11th has always been a good day of hunting for me, but I've never shot a deer on a November 11th. It seems like if I had to pick, it would be like the 10th, 11th, and 12th would be my top days here in Ohio.
Oh, see, I said it on another podcast. I said 8th, 9th, and 10th.
Yeah.
That's what I said. Now, I actually take that back. I said that if I want to kill any buck, if I just want to go out and shoot a buck, those are the days I'm going to pick. If I have one target buck, I'm going to go December 10th, 11th, and 12th. After the rut, they're super pattern balling food. And, you can really nail down that one buck where he's eating, where he's bedding, and then pin him down. So, yeah, I was just curious to ask because that's kind of been going around a lot on some other podcasts. So,
once again, this is where I get a little jealous because that's, like 2 months after our season ends.
Yeah, Jason's already done. He's
yeah,
like,
we're
I'm going
done.
to Canada to shoot birds.
Yeah. So, in fact, I might very well, when this airs, I might very well be in a field shooting birds in Canada.
Hundreds of birds.
Yeah. I did my bow hunting time. I went out, I waited, I passed some elk, I passed some deer, I passed a ton of antelope.
Yeah.
Connected with a couple, but not enough. So
I don't want to get off topic here, but I do want to ask you, Jason, because you're about to go. By the time this airs, you'll probably be back or there. The borders having been closed for 2 years, you have to imagine that there's been some hunting pressure relieved from those birds. What are you expecting going into this?
You just never know.
Insanity.
It depends on the year and it depends on the hatch. We're targeting, we're shooting ducks, darks, and then our main quarry up there right now is snow geese because it's a 50 bird limit. So you never know. The hunting pressure could be down, but it's all about how the hatch was and where the birds are, if they're on a field that I can get, that I can hunt or not. So,
because I heard a couple guides. The reason I asked is we just opened, and again, I don't know if this raffle is still going because the last one sold out so quick. But we just announced our Welcome Back to Canada raffle for a whitetail rut hunt, and I got like 7 comments from outfitters saying like, we need you. Like, we're being overwhelmed with bears because we're so used to selling all these bear hunts to Americans, and like our bear populations are outrageous. So get up here and start killing stuff. And I'm like, Jason's about to go slaughter some birds. I wonder how it's going to be for him.
I'm throwing my bow in just in case I get that call.
Do it.
So anyway, but you know what, Nicole, we get off on some tangents here because that's kind of how we are, but we always have fun with it. So
what else do you like to hunt? We got off on birds. What else do you like to hunt? A lot of turkey. There's a lot of turkeys behind you.
Yeah, I like the turkey hunt. Deer hunting is probably still number one, but turkey hunting in the spring, and then my husband is a coon hunter. We used to coon hunt some, so we did that, and squirrel hunt for fun every once in a while, but mainly just deer and turkey are the two main things. We've been on one mountain lion trip, and that was about 10 years ago, but that's all that we've done outside of Ohio. So,
well, if you're killing 204-inch deer, there's really no need to go anywhere else. I'm just
probably not.
Yeah. Where are you going to hunt this year? It's just, I'm probably not doing anything at all. I'll probably just go shoot, hunt at the family farm.
Yeah.
And shoot a 200-inch buck. So, one question that I have, and I don't want this to come across bad in any way, because there's definitely
crap.
I know. Set it up.
Oh, crap.
Because it's interesting on your buck, I think, was it North American Whitetail that did the research and contacted us to find out?
Yes.
Because we don't, as Pope and Young, we do not keep records based on, I don't even think we asked the sex of the hunter. We just, if you submit it, you're just a hunter, period.
Right.
And so, when you found out that, hey, this is, the women's world record, so to speak, was that, what was going through your head? Are you like, hey, that's really cool? Or where does that put me total? Which one, or both? You could have both. Yeah.
Well, just being in a separate category or split up into women's, like, that's something I never considered. I just, the deer is the deer, and I don't care. I really didn't care what he scored, but I just never thought of it that way, I guess. So when they started contacting me saying, do you know that he could be potential, like, for a woman with a compound or vertical bow? And, I'd never considered that, because, when you enter a deer, just like you say in the books, it's, it's just about the deer. It's not about who took it. So, and when it did come through, I thought, it's a good thing to kind of promote women in hunting. So I thought, let's roll with it. So yeah, I thought that was it's been pretty cool. So I won't lie about that.
Yeah. And it's, I can't wait to see this thing at panel and at convention. I'm excited. It's a tremendous trophy. And, especially when you get to know a little bit more of the story about how much effort you put into this over years to target this buck, and how you change your entire hunt for this one buck. It makes it, like, to me, that makes it even more special. So it'll be more, something that I appreciate even more when I get to see it. But man, I can't wait to see it. And, when you talk about promoting women in hunting, it's kind of neat, because at our convention, at our panel, there's no, we're all just one. Dylan and I aren't, because we're not shooting great big stuff that gets invited to convention. But, the hunters that are there, like yourself, it's all just one big group, one big, family, if you will. And so it's,
now, Jason, you said you can't wait to see this.
Yeah.
And let me just look at this buck. If you're not watching this on YouTube, go to YouTube so you can see this buck.
I'm looking at this.
This is what you want to see in a highlighted whitetail.
Dude, look at that mass.
That's exactly what you want to see.
Yeah.
It's got everything. Now, listen, I'm not saying we've highlighted some ugly bucks, but the butcher buck is ugly. Sorry, Brian. The butcher buck is ugly.
Dude,
I love Brian. He's a great guy.
Brian's a great
deer. It's a really cool deer. But look, like, that's the kind of deer that you want to see highlighted. It's perfect.
When you think big trophy whitetail,
oh my gosh, it doesn't get better.
Buck you think of. This is the buck you think of. And sorry, Brian, but yeah,
I'm kind of a gear guy. Like, I like to observe that kind of stuff. Shout out to the Scent Lock. Check that out, Jay.
Oh yeah, they're friends.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. That's it. That's great. So I cannot wait to see that at panel and convention. And, it's pretty neat, because once again, we don't discriminate anywhere. We invite the best of the best. So the last biennium, we don't care where you're from, who you are, what you look like. what size shoe you wear. We just invite the best trophies that are taken. And this is obviously going to be one of them. And we've had some really good ladies representing lately. I mean, my gosh, Michaela with that elk, that velvet elk, and Shelly, who we had on
with the mountain lion,
with that mountain lion. Holy crap, that was the biggest mountain lion.
I think there was 5 females that got awards last year. Is that correct?
It's something like that. There were a bunch.
Yeah,
and it was so it was really neat. And you talk to some of these gals, and it's like, it's impressive because they live it. I mean, just like you. I mean, you're living it. You're formulating game plans. You're using trail cameras. You're shed hunting. You're literally learning everything you can learn to target that buck. So it's exciting. And I love that enthusiasm. I love the effort that people put into it, because it's just, I'm on the West Coast, just a little bit different out here. We don't have some of those same opportunities, and it's really neat when I get to hear about them.
Yeah.
I got a 2-part question for you.
Sure.
Did your husband get you into hunting, or were you already a hunter when you got married?
So that happened all about the same time. But I've always been outdoorsy. My dad is the one that I would attribute getting me into hunting. And then he bought me my first bow for Christmas, and I was about 20 at the time. And then my husband bought him, poor guy had to buy his own bow, but we got into shooting about the same time. So he had been, he'd gun hunted a lot through his childhood growing up, but I'd never really hunted until I was about 20, 22, and that's right around when we got married. So we kind of dove headfirst together into that.
Hey, Dylan, before you get to the second part of your question, I now know why they argue when they're hunting. I've figured this out. I'm not okay, to be fair, I am not a licensed marriage counselor.
Yet.
Yeah, maybe. You never know. However, I could tell, because here's a guy, he's like, man, I met this fantastic lady. She's super fun. She's outdoorsy. She's got a farm and she doesn't hunt. I'm gonna get free. And then all of a sudden,
I think I'm gonna hunt.
They get married, and then she's like, you know what? I think I'm gonna bow hunt too. And he's like, so that's probably why they're arguing, because
and the fight started, right?
Yeah, deep down inside, he's just like, oh, what happened?
Dang it.
Yeah.
No, my question was going to be,
yes,
what's your advice to husbands to get their wives involved in hunting? However, since it was your dad, there's probably a lot of dads listening to this who have daughters, myself included. What's your tip for a dad to get his daughter involved in hunting and to buy into it?
That's a good one. I would say be patient, because I think he tried to get me into it when I was younger, and I just wasn't quite there yet. But I be patient, and if they show a spark of interest, just take it slow and do as much as your daughter would appreciate at the time. And I'm never into forcing kids into too much, so just do what the kids enjoy and make it enjoyable for them, and that would be what I would say.
The reason I ask is because I've got a 4-year-old boy, and he's all in. Like, literally, I'm waking him up at 5 a.m. tomorrow to go sit in a blind, and he's pumped.
Yeah.
Like, he's excited. But my daughters are like, oh, dirt, no. Like, I want to paint my nails. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I mean, I do want them to enjoy it too.
Put the carpet in the blind, man.
But then my son can't play monster trucks in the dirt. That's
take it out when he shows up. When he comes, you take it out and throw it behind. Yeah, but that way there's no dirt. Then let them paint their nails like camo.
I gotcha.
I'll tell you what. You talk about young ladies and girls. I don't know. Have you ever seen a bigger smile on a face than Kaylee's smile the other day when she got that?
Oh my gosh.
Heather's not. Holy smokes, man. Ear to ear grin. And and then she, of course, had to call and say, I got a buck before you did. So anyway, it's neat to see those big grins. And And it's just so fun to see, especially when the youngsters get involved like that. So, I mean, Nicole, now what's next? What are you going to do? How are you going to top this?
No, that's already established. I mean, that'll be it for me. We took him to the taxidermist that day, and they asked me if it was my first deer, and I said no, but he's probably my last. And they all get a chuckle out of that. But for me, I'm just gonna continue hunting, just whatever makes me happy. We'll probably never get this opportunity again, so I'm okay with that. Once is good.
So are you, I mean, what's your mindset now? Are you out in the field saying, hey, I know what 200 inches is. I want 200. Or are
Yeah.
you out there saying, hey, that's a 165 really high quality buck. That's my target buck.
My thing is mature deer. So I like to age them through trail cameras, watch them over the years, and it doesn't matter what they score. I like to wait till they're 5-ish, 6, 5, 6 would be bragging if I said I could wait that long, but usually 5. I just like to wait until they're mature and give them a chance to turn into something. But
Yeah.
they can be a 125. I've shot a 6-pointer that was an old deer, and I was just as happy with him.
Good.
So, yeah.
Good. Yeah, that's you see that where people have something just magnificent like that, and then they're like, "Uh-oh, what's next?"
Yeah.
And for me, I guess I haven't shot enough, big animals to not be okay with the next one coming by. So
yeah, it's been bittersweet because he's not there to go after, and that's been 4 years of my life.
oh yeah,
So amped, and now it's just I mean, we've got a couple nice target deer, but they won't come anywhere close to him. And it's been a little bit of a transition for me this year. But on the other hand, I'm enjoying my time out there, maybe feeling a little less pressured this year, and just
okay.
kind of go out and just do my own thing and not be on pins and needles the whole season, just let it happen. So
Now here's a question, because we have a lot of folks that we have on the show are like you. They're shooting big stuff, and they always remind Dylan and I that, hey, if you want to shoot the big ones, you have to let the little ones go. And if you want to shoot the giants, i.e. 204, you have to let the big ones go. And so when you were out there, when you connected with that buck, did you have other opportunities? Were you passing other, trophy quality bucks, or was this kind of just the one that was in that zone? Or tell us about that.
not too many opportunities. So like over those 4 years, I don't think there was another deer that I even picked my bow up for, but there were a couple. I'd put them in mid 130s, 140s, and I know there was 2 that I let go, and the one was just a couple nights before I got Woody. He came directly underneath my tree stand. It would have been a chip shot, and I was really kind of regretting my decision because at that time I didn't know if Woody had even made it through the season or not. So I didn't even know if he was there. And then this is like a 2-day difference. So I feel like that was a test for me. But yeah, there was only a couple times where I had chances at other deer that's really pressured where we hunt. And, it's tough to get on a good one and stay on a big deer that you're targeting out there.
Gotcha. And so I'm assuming probably the best experience in a tree stand would be seeing that big one when, like you said, when his horns are coming through the brush. What's your second best, or what's in your top 3 of experiences that you've been out in a tree stand, deer or whatever else? What would you say?
Well, there was another deer that I had hunted on public property, and I didn't tell many people about. But it was kind of the same thing. We found him in the summertime by driving around in some fields and set up on him, and that was one of kind of a do-it-yourself thing on public ground, which was pretty cool to me. But I think early that fall I went out and I found this deer's sheds, which was just by pure luck. And I used my climber again in that same tree where I found his sheds, and I ended up getting that buck. And that was on October 23rd. And that's been about 8 years ago now, but that was one of my favorite hunts besides the one for Woody. And it's just
nice.
Yeah. I just like being able to go out and do my own thing, and getting a deer of his caliber on public land was a big accomplishment for me. So
Absolutely. And so you mentioned a couple times you're using a climbing stand.
yeah.
And so where you're hunting, I don't have a ton of experience with tree stands. I've used them some, but where you're hunting, especially on the private, why would you go with the climber instead of like a ladder stand?
We have a lot of stands around, and I think sometimes we overhunt some of our stands. And I like to, rather than, it's harder for me to take down a set and move it myself. And so it's
Okay.
easier for me to be a little bit more movable with this tree stand with the climber, and take it and put it where I need it in a pinch. And so a lot of times that's what I'll do. And the area where I got Woody, we didn't have a stand, and I just decided I was going to take my climber and see what happened. It was not an area that we would normally hunt. So climbers are good for me because I'm not buying, a set of sticks and climber a stand every time I need a new setup or moving things. It's
Okay.
time consuming.
Have you tried the saddle game?
I've thought about it. I'm one of the clumsiest people you'll ever
Don't
meet.
do it.
So, yeah,
Don't do it. The
I
tree
just don't
diaper. That's what I call it.
all day. Yeah.
Shout out to listen. Jason,
I don't think you can say that, Dylan.
I got in trouble actually on another podcast. I said I was kind of making fun of saddles, and I said tree diapers, and and then I had to come back on another episode and say, listen, guys, I was joking. I don't have anything against saddle hunting. I just don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
did you make that a hashtag tree diaper?
Hashtag tree diapers.
Yeah.
No, here's my biggest issue. Same as Nicole just said. I've got like 94 tree stands. So why buy one thing to do away with nine? I literally have a storage unit that I hold tree stands in. Like, why buy one thing to do away with all that? Like, I've spent a lot of time and money on tree stands. I don't want to have to just get rid of them. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. See, I don't think the goal is to get rid of all your other ones. It's just to have another tool, kind of like her climber.
Yeah. But I've got climbers. Like, climbers serve the same purpose, essentially. I mean,
yeah.
So it's, and like Nicole said, I mean, everywhere I hunt is mainly private ground. I mean, and so I've got, on the place there in Oklahoma I hunt, there's 13 tree stands hung up ready to go. Like, if I want to hunt in that area, I've got a tree stand ready to go. So for me, there's no need to take the leap to a tree diaper. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. And see, for me, I'm a ladder stand. I'm like 6'2", we'll say 250.
240.
Yeah. Okay. 245 on my driver's license. Anyway, like for me, man, I'm a ladder stand. I don't like heights. A ladder stand feels a little bit more substantial to me. And
hey, I told you I'm not afraid of heights. On that elk hunt, we were having trouble getting into them. And so the outfitter was like, well, dude, I got a stand hung up over here, and I think they'll just work through there. So for a day, let's just try that. And we go in there, and it was like a 4-mile hike. And we get there, and I look up, and I promise you from the creek bottom I was standing in, that hang-on was 40 feet in the air. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. And it was an all-day sit. So it's like, well, now or never.
Yeah, never.
Never.
No, thank you. All right. How about Nicole? How do you feel about heights?
I'm good with them.
Okay.
My husband wasn't so much when he first started out. I used to give him a hard time about it, but he would get to hang in a stand and get up there, and he'd kind of lock up on me, and his knees would start shaking. But he's overcome that.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty good with heights.
I've never had knees shaking, but man, I'm careful when I'm up there. I'm like tree hugging, making sure that I've got like 3 extra straps just in case I drop one. It's
Scariest moment in the tree stand, I had a big earthquake, and like I thought I was done. Like I turned around and grabbed that tree, and I had a harness on, but you still don't want to fall if you don't have to. And I turned around and grabbed that tree, and that earthquake went on for about a minute, and I was like, "Oh, dude!" I climbed down, and went home. I was scared.
Now, when you say earthquake, was that the wind or
Yeah.
a legitimate earthquake?
No, it was a legit earthquake. But
Okay.
there's been some times too. I mean, you get here in Kansas and the wind's ripping, and it's been a little sketchy at times, but
Yeah, I've been in trees where the wind starts going and you feel
you're
the
waving
sway.
back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah. And see, a lot of times where I'm hunting, because you're probably putting them in hardwoods. And a lot of times for us, the hardwoods are really small, like aspens, like quakies, not very big trees. And so they're not really tree stand material, but then there might be a nice big pine tree. But oh my gosh, man, the pitch.
Pines will rip.
Oh gosh, the pitch is just endless on those things. So, well, if you had to go outside of Ohio again to hunt something like you did with the mountain lion, what would be at the top of your list?
Elk. I'd love to go on an elk hunt. Talked to my dad about that a lot over the years, but I've just never made it happen, I guess. But I would love to go on an elk hunt or mule deer. I think that would be my first pick.
Okay. That's well, I'll tell you what, when you come to Reno, bring your checkbook or your credit card. Yeah, you don't even need money because we'll take buys. We're gonna have elk hunts and mule deer hunts on our auctions. So
and moose hunts and lion hunts and anything you want to hunt.
Yeah.
So it's no, we've been working hard. We got some wonderful outfitters that have come up. They're really coming up with some really good stuff for us for conventions. So if you ever wanted to, you'll have the option there to get just really super, super hunts.
Yeah.
So it's and are you going to make Reno? I'm hoping you're planning to be there.
Yeah. We had a lot of questions about it. I didn't know much about it because I'm really a greenhorn, when it comes to this kind of stuff. But I talked to a lot of people, and they said it's something that you don't want to miss. They said you need to be there, experience it, and I'll be there.
Good. Yeah, I would say if we should get her connected up with Shelly because she says, "Oh, this is my first one. It won't be my last one." She just had a great time, and she was recognized for her.
My wife's not even a hunter, and she loved it.
Really?
Yeah,
like it's an experience.
Yeah.
It is, and it's so neat because the people there.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, they're just great people, and you're talking to folks that are legitimate tip of the spear bow hunters from all over the country, all over North America, really. And they're just all there to have a good time and talk about their trophies. And most of them have never shot a 200-inch whitetail. So, I mean, I think you're going to enjoy it. I really do. So we're working hard to make sure it's the show that you want to be at.
Oh, good. Yeah. So, I'm looking forward to it, really.
Yeah. So the next magazine cover you're going to be on, what do you think that'll be?
I haven't even thought past, like they talked about, we kept it quiet for a long time. I just kind of joke around like, I shot a really nice deer and nobody knows about him. And,
right.
And then, I give credit to the guys that scored my deer and they kind of got word out, and, have to say thanks to Ryan Huffman and Bob Wood, because those two guys I think were the main ones that got me connected with Haynes and North American, and that was a dream come true for me. And those guys probably think that I wasn't that excited, but I promise you, when I got off the phone with them, I was just jumping up and down and I just couldn't believe it. So that was a cool thing. But,
that's so exciting. And so the next magazine cover you're going to be on is going to be North American whitetail. You going to go back for another whitetail, or are you going to go shoot a big elk, maybe NASCAR? I mean, what are you going to conquer next?
I'd be foolish if I said there was going to be another one, but no, you know, this was probably it for me, and I'll keep hunting, but you this was he was just the deer that made it through and had the genetics, and my dad has hunted for 40 years out this direction, and I've hunted for 20 out there, and he was the first one that even made it to that status that we've hunted. So
Wow.
yeah, I'm just a local. I'll probably just hunt around home, and that's probably, I'm not saying that's all I'll ever do, but that's probably where I'll be.
Yeah. Did your dad ever give you any inkling of like, man, why did I turn her into a hunter? That could have been my buck.
I'm sure he's thought of it a time or two, but we would talk about him, and then you just kind of go back and forth, and we didn't talk a lot about you shoot him or I'll shoot him. We just kind of agreed that if he ever walked past us and gave us a shot, we were taking the shot, and that we'd be just as happy if he would got it as if I would have got him. So, we're both, we both worked out okay. And, I really wish my dad was the one to get him. And I say that after I shot him, but, he's worked so hard, and it was his farm, and he's the one that introduced me to it. And he's the one that had, such a passion for it that got me into it. So, I really, that's been also like another bittersweet moment for getting Woody, but I think he's pretty happy it was one of us.
I'll bet your dad, if he had it to do, I'll bet he had just as soon you got it as he did. That's most dads are that way. I know, when I was 12 years old on my first hunt, my dad had a buck spotted for me that, I mean, I didn't deserve it. I sure as heck didn't earn that thing, but he let me shoot it, and it was, that's what dads do. They just jump in and do it for the kiddos. And here in a few years, Dylan, you're not going to be shooting anything because he's going to be shooting them all.
That's probably true, dude. He wants.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's just like a freak, but like this morning he said, "Dad, are we going deer hunting?" I said, "No, bub, that's tomorrow morning," because I've been telling him, "Hey, we're gonna go hunt at the end of the week." And this morning I said, "That's tomorrow morning." He said, "We're gonna make the deer scream," and I'm like, "Huh, okay, like, sounds good, bud." Like,
all right.
And I don't know, because he's just, he's 4, so I don't know if he just like, I don't know, or if he's literally talking about we're gonna hunt them so hard that they're gonna scream. He's a freak, dude.
Yeah. How would you, Dylan, if you had to give us a sample of what a deer scream would be like? Can we hear that?
My son's in the room. You want to see if he can do it?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Hey, bub, come here.
And Nicole's thinking she's off the hook, but right after the deer scream, we're going to get the bleat. We're going to get the 200-inch buck stopper bleat.
Hey, what sound do deer make? Here, you can use this. What sound do deer make? Okay, yeah, that's a scream.
All right, that's a deer scream.
Kid's come here. He's got a heck of a turkey call. Listen to this. Make your turkey noise. Now you got to gobble.
We can't hear him.
You couldn't hear him?
No,
Oh, well, I guess
you have to work on his volume.
I know you heard you heard the deer call. Now, that's a scream. All
right.
I think the deer call's broke, but
yeah. So Nicole, let's hear. I mean, if this is legitimately a ladies' world record. I mean, you can stop a world record in its tracks with a bleat. I need to hear this. I need to add this to my arsenal.
I don't know if I can do this or not.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's no pressure here. We're not going to run away. I promise you, neither Dylan or I are going to run away. If
my dad's going to watch this and he's going to give me a hard time.
That's okay. That's all right.
So it's just your flat old meh, but louder.
Okay. All right.
Works.
You know what? I heard a guy tell me a tip. I don't know what you want to call it, but he said, what I have found, and he's a known big buck killer. He said, but what I have found is if I make a deer noise, they're looking for a deer. But if I make a turkey noise, they're just going to stop. They're not going to look at me. They're not going to. He said, so I always keep a reed call in my mouth, and if I need to stop a deer, I just chirp it, and they'll stop to look around just to see where the turkey is. But they're not going to be looking for another deer. They're going to be looking for a turkey. And so I didn't alert them as much as, and I'm like, I've not tried it yet, but pretty good idea. He also said it's good for, like, if they see you moving, he said, I'll just chirp that, and then they automatically think they saw a turkey move. And so they just go back to feeding. I'm
Interesting.
like, pretty smart.
All right. Yeah, because no wonder he looked up, because he's like, what is a deer doing up there? That doesn't.
Why is a deer in the tree?
How do you get up there? Yeah. So, well, that's all right. Well, we'll accept that. And you know what, Dylan, can you make a note? I think maybe when she comes up on stage in Reno, should we have her do that? Yeah. The world record stopper. Yeah. Bleat. Okay. How's that sound, Nicole?
Embarrassing.
Embarrassing? Hey, we would never embarrass anybody. Never. Couldn't happen. So, but one thing we actually do is every episode of this show, we ask our one question. We ask, when you find yourself chasing whatever you're chasing, if it's going out for elk, or if you decide to hunt pronghorns, or if you're going to go chase another 200-inch whitetail, what is a non-traditional type item that you take with you along on the hunt?
Oh, that's a good one.
While you think about it, I've got one for you, Jason.
Okay.
I've got one for you. And it's the only reason I thought of it is because here on my desk. Moleskin. I just take this with me wherever I go. And then if there's a place where my zipper is hitting on the tree stand constantly, I can put it on the tree stand. It'll stop that. If I need to if it's ticking on my bow in a certain place, I can put a piece on that and it'll stop that. It's just makes everything quieter.
Moleskins.
It's literally $1.99 at any Walmart, Target, or Dollar General. And Fred Eichler gave me that tip, and it changed my life.
Well, thanks to Fred.
Thanks, Fred.
Yeah. How about you, Nicole? Are you going to give us a life-changing tip?
Well, I could think of one. So I have, so as a wind detector, we'll use like milkweed, and I'll keep it in my little pack, and it works pretty well.
It's
and
the best one. If you still use a puffer bottle, you're not wrong, but you ain't right. Like, I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, but we'll have, and eventually they all get kind of fuzzy and mashed up, and I'll find that fuzz everywhere for a year to come in my pack, but it's there if you need it. So.
Yeah. See, the puffer bottles are just so handy.
Do you have milkweed though, Jason, where you're at?
I have no idea.
Okay. So I wish I had it's fine little white fibers. And so what I do, Nicole, here's a good tip for you. You know those old coin purses, like that you would pinch and you could reach down in it, fill it with that, and then it'll act like a tissue bottle. Like, so you just pull it out, and then the next one will be sticking out a little bit, so you can grab the next one each time. But Jason, it's just a little white fiber. You can just pull it out and drop it. So rather than powder, where it's just right there for 7 feet, you can actually watch these for hundreds of yards because it's a white little ribbon floating through the air, and it'll actually work for thermals too. Like, so rather than powder, you can watch it float or rise or drop with the thermals. Really cool. You can buy it online too. Like, if you don't have it where you're at, just search milkweed indicator, and they're like $14. Come stocked with it. Really cool. Okay. But I have it at my local dam, so I just drive over to the dam and pick a couple pods, and that lasts me all season.
Yeah. Well, it must work. And
it's awesome.
You know what? Here's the deal. I'll commit to both to you. If I'm ever chasing a 200-inch whitetail,
you'll get milkweed.
I will go find some milkweed.
You need milkweed, yeah.
Yeah. So, well, that's Nicole. We sure appreciate you jumping on here.
She said she had a couple. She said she had a couple.
Did she? I'm sorry, I jumped the gun on that.
Oh, well, toilet paper is my other one.
Oh,
but
that's
multiple uses, Well,
yeah, that's a given.
Not multiple uses. You only use it once.
You're only supposed to use it once. Yeah.
So
I've never even seen multiple use toilet paper.
But if it'll help me kill a 200-inch whitetail,
I'm telling you.
Yeah, I got myself here.
That's life changing.
tracking. Like I use it for tracking.
Oh yeah.
I'll use it
Okay.
for blood trail, but it's there, in emergencies. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Nothing
That makes more sense than multiple. I mean, although if you talk life changing, multiple use toilet paper,
That'd be pretty neat.
Yeah. I don't know, man. My dad had a hanky, and I swear I don't know if that thing ever. I mean, he didn't use it for toilet paper, but I never saw that in the laundry growing up. It was, you want to talk multiple use. His hanky was out there for years, I think. But
I'm
anyway,
just stoked she said milkweed. That makes me super happy.
I know, because you may or may not have mentioned that before.
Did I?
Somebody did. I thought it was you. Maybe I'm gonna have to go back and replay some stuff, but it's it has come up before, and
it's awesome, dude.
But I don't know if it was somebody's official answer, so I think this might be new for the list.
That's the first one, yeah.
So we're gonna, you know what? When we get to convention, let's make like 8.5 by 11 sheets, and we'll just have a picture of everything everybody said.
Yeah.
Except for the Uncrustables, and then we'll do like a 4 foot by 8 foot massive.
Why don't we make a table and just like bring the items and lay them out?
It's a good idea.
That'd be cool.
I like that. Okay.
And then everybody that comes by, like Nick Munn, will be like, dude, I said Uncrustables, and then he'll eat it probably.
Yeah. And then Nicole's going to be like, milkweed, that's mine.
And then she'll be like, oh, there's my used toilet paper.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, no,
she's going to be like, she's going to be like, milkweed's mine. And somebody will be like, well, I think Dylan mentioned that. And she's like, yeah, but Dylan hasn't shot a 200-inch buck. So
should have said 204, baby. And I'm like,
204. Yeah. So, well, Nicole, can't wait to officially meet you in Reno. And I'm definitely looking forward to taking a look at Woody and seeing him in person. I just, what a magnificent buck. So congratulations for that. And kudos for sticking with it and passing him when he was smaller so that he could get to that monster size.
Well, I thank you, and I thanks for the invite on having me on the show. It was really neat. This is just a cool experience for me, so I appreciate you guys taking the time and chatting with me.
Absolutely.
Well, this won't be your last, I bet.
I'll bet not.
My whole family's tired of hearing about him, so this is one more way I get to talk about him a little more.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, you look at a buck like that, and considering how many whitetail hunters there are in this country who have probably never even seen a buck like that, let alone had a chance at him, it's a great story, and it's one people need to hear. And for me, it inspires me to do more. And because I didn't grow up with a trophy mentality. I grew up with the freezer mentality. Mm-hmm. And it's different, and you have to approach it completely different. Unless you're Chuck Adams, and then the first buck he sees is a world record. But for the rest of us who aren't, I mean, if I was a deer, I'd be like, dude, that's Chuck Adams. I'm going to go make a target for him, but for the rest of the time, and for those of us who aren't Chuck Adams, it's a total mentality switch. And so when I hear people like you, when I hear accomplished hunters that are out there, and you're using your entire year to set yourself up for this thing, and multiple years, it really helps give me a new perspective, because I try to take some of those tactics, not necessarily all of them, but I try to take the bits and pieces that fit for me and transfer them out to Western hunting. So it's really neat for me to hear about that. And especially when you have a plan and you spend years implementing your plan, and then it all comes together, and then you're on the cover of magazines. So anyway, once again, congratulations. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was great to hear your story, and can't wait to meet you in Reno.
Thanks for having me. We'll see you. See you in Reno.